Happy Friday. Okay, we are on a long weekend, and many school districts in the Wasatch Front area in Utah have been sent to virtual learning, many starting today, many starting next week. And I know it's just another sometimes trauma-induced reaction to what 2020 was about, but we have to be mindful that the reason why we're doing this for the week is not because we're concerned of the same concerns, but it's just that we don't have the capacity at the schools to be testing all of these students to see who can stay in school. There's not enough tests at the state. So there's many reasons, and I'm sure your school district has given out letters, but that's not why I'm here to talk to you about. It is Dr. Martin Luther King weekend. And it is a celebrated weekend across the country. Many people have used Dr. King's quotes in their speeches, and on either side of whatever debate that is being established, they have used Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. But I want to challenge us to ask ourselves, is Dr. King's dream a true reality? And have we really taken a look at how the dream that he was sharing was for people that looked like me and my family? And we have to ponder the question of that. I delivered a topic and speech to two organizations, one for Morgan Stanley a couple years ago, and then another for the NAME conference, National Association of Multicultural Education, the Utah chapter and the national chapter. And I had a presentation that was just that, where we looked into the question and finding the answer of, is Dr. King's dream a reality? I won't share the entire speech and presentation because it was an hour long, but I will share the 5 points of question based off of the I Have a Dream speech, and ask and question as you go into this weekend and you work with your kids at home, and talk about these things with them and be honest and celebrate the legacy. But there's also been cause from his family to say, hey, let's pause on Monday and really look at a few things in his speech. As Dr. King was up there, part of his speech was not planned. He got to a part in the speech where he said, let us not wallow in the valley of despair, and he paused. The night before, he had had a town hall, and many people were there at the town hall, and then afterwards they had a meeting from what has been discussed, and he had a dream that he shared. In that pause, a woman sitting next to him as he was looking out at the mall in DC said to Dr. King, tell him about the dream. Tell him about the dream. And at that point, after he finished that part of the speech, he showed his true orating talent. And as the orator he was, shared the rest of what his dream was. And I'm going to read those 5 points to you from my speech in presentation. He recognized that many people would want to know, when would Black people be satisfied? And in the speech, he declared that he reminds people that 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, that America has a promissory note that has yet to be signed and received, and that, as Dr. King states, America has given Blacks a bad check, one which never came back, that has come back insufficient funds. And while he was peaceful, we have to wonder, what are those insufficient funds? We know also, before I give these 5 points, that this speech caused attention, that the FBI investigated Dr. King, right? So how can we have a speech which we love and celebrate cause such uproar? He recognized that we would not be satisfied, that as long as the Negro is victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutality. And we can go through the statistics and what the Justice Bureau says about that. A second area in the speech that he said that we wouldn't be satisfied as long as Black people experienced the fatigue of travel, not gaining lodging in hotels and motels. He also said we would not be satisfied in point 3 as long as our children are stripped of their adulthood and robbed of their dignity by signs of stating, for whites only. He also said, we won't be satisfied. And remember, this is the 60s, so the term that I'm using is applicable, and because it is a speech, I am taking the words in context. He said, we won't be satisfied as the Negro's basic mobility is from a small ghetto to a larger one. And for a little clarification, that can be and is about gentrification of cities. And you can look up one 70 acres in a town in Chicago called Cabrini Green. We also can look at what's happening in California and in our own backyard in North Salt Lake or in South Salt Lake. So in the fifth point, the fifth point is what his family speaks to in 2022. He speaks directly to the Black community. He states, "We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and the Negro in New York believes he has nothing to vote for." That is the irony of the 15th Amendment of the Constitution, which it prohibited the federal and state governments from denying the citizen the right to vote based off of a citizen's race, color, or previous condition of servitude. It was ratified on February 3rd in 1870, but of course it was stated to be interpreted narrowly. And so from 1890 to 1910, there was constant laws and obstacles that kept Blacks from voting. Just yesterday, I celebrated my sorority's 109th anniversary, Delta Sigma Theta. And one of the first acts as an organization was for us to have the right for the vote for women. And we marched in the Women's Suffrage March. Many of my founders not knowing if that right would be obtained for Black women, but they knew if women could get the right to vote, that would be coming up. We have some voting rights redistricting that is happening in the state of Utah and of course across the country. And so looking at that inalienable right to vote that's being questioned and taken is a concern. As we sit and educate our children, we need to make sure that they understand that Dr. King saw all of that and he encouraged us to not wallow in the valley of despair. It can seem daunting, especially during that time. So as we celebrate Dr. King's birthday, I hope that his dreams have come true. Some have come to fruition. I don't worry about traveling and staying at hotels, but let's not deny that there's more we can do. When most Martin Luther King boulevards end into a poor neighborhood and not to a library, there is a dream to chase. When students in Baltimore are attending school with no heat, there is a dream to embrace. And when families and communities are still without clean water in Flint, Michigan, and now possibly Georgia, there is a dream to embody. So I encourage all of you, as I wrote in this speech a couple of years ago, as Dr. King did, on that historic day, as he stated, "I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." And so as we move forward to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King, I want you to ask, in what ways can I help his dream become a reality? And those are just some Friday facts. Have a great weekend. Be healthy, be safe.